and then we'll reconvene in October on a regular meeting schedule. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Are you guys prepared to go forward? Sure. Sam, did you want to do any introductory comments on your project? Or
I really don't think that's necessary.
Okay. You want to introduce your consultants, sub-consultants?
Okay. David Wilcox, I believe?
No, Mike Lavity.
Mike Lavity. What happened to David Wilcox? Okay, I'm sorry.
From Wilcox. From Wilcox.
Oh, from Wilcox. Oh, okay. Mike Lavity, right. And
TJ like.
He's the one who did all the work.
Right.
And before we go any further, if you haven't already signed in, please sign in on the meeting minutes, the sign-in sheet. That helps me with the meeting minutes, make sure I get your name spelled right. Okay?
I reviewed your traffic impact study, and I found it to be very clear, comprehensive, and fire away.
Do you want me to just kind of talk to the whole group, or
yeah.
Is it okay,
Right to the board? Yep.
Right here? Is this okay? Sure. I don't know if this is on. It doesn't really need to. I'm Mike Larry. This is TJ Likens. We work with Wilcox. I assume maybe I am making the proper assumption. You've all got a copy of this, and did you have a chance to go through it? I hope. If not, hopefully you did it early in the day so that you didn't fall asleep. These are sometimes tough to go through. To kind of get your arms around this a little bit, we met with the city, we met with the county folks, and we tried to get our arms around what a scope of work would be in order to be able to, what needs to be studied. I mean, we know how to do the study, but a lot of times things that need to be included in the study, like intersections, key driveways, things like that, turning movement, traffic signal timing plans, lane geometry, all that kind of stuff needs to be scoped out before you do the study. So we met with the city, we got information, input from the city on what to include in it, and then we put together a scope of work proposal, and we did the study. So, just so you know, this wasn't created between TJ and I figuring out, sitting in our office, what we think this study ought to be. We ran it past the people that are out there getting dirty too. So it's not that we didn't just create this in a vacuum. So the people that are responsible for this, and the people that have heard a lot of the information and the feedback from a lot of the residents and whoever else, and your own city staff gave us some things that are important to be in the study. So that's the intersections that are in it, and all that stuff are basically from that information. If you look at the, I'm sorry?
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, it would be probably a bit tomatoed the next time we show up. Like, what do you mean? You're the only one who knows how to do this? Well, no. And since I wasn't in on all the meetings, or any of us were in on the meetings with the residents or anything else, what sense would that make for us to just create the study? And I don't want anybody to think that we didn't do that. So, right thing. Now, if you look at the study, there's an accepted practice way to do this stuff. So, turning movement counts, looking at it on peak hours. There's standard dimensions for driveways. There's traffic signal timings that are standard. There's traffic volumes, and what hours of the day to study, which are the worst days to study it. Forecasting the due traffic that the site will generate. That's all standard stuff that's accepted practice all across the country. Same documents are used. Same computer program that produced the simulation and the analysis is all the same. So these are not things that we just kind of made up and did this. This is accepted practice. It's done this way all across the country. So there's nothing fabricated or non-standard about this. Only thing that's usually different in these kinds of things is the scope of work. What are the intersections? What are the key elements? What are the key issues that we need to focus on that may be at issue? Sometimes other things come out of the study street that are not necessarily a key issue, but they turn out to be important. So it's the same sort of thing if you were doing a drainage study for parking lot runoff or anything like that. There are engineering standards that you follow to do this. This is part of that. We did that very same thing. Under the executive summary, which is on page II, it kind of gives you all the information you need to know with a couple of exceptions. If you got that far, and there's two things that I think are important. Is that if we were going to put a project in here that was going to overload the intersection of Edwards and Southfield, or change the operational characteristics of it, in other words, increase delay or significant increase in delay or significant increase in traffic queues or things like that, that would come out of it. The changes that result from this are negligible. And if you think about comparing it to an office building that was there, it's a wash. There's nothing. In fact, it's possible that the office building that has regular people coming to it every day, if you think about that, versus people that come to a restaurant facility, all the traffic engineering people say there's 43% of those are pass-by trips. In other words, people that are already out on the main road. So it's not necessarily a haphazard decision, but it's somebody that's going by, oh, I guess I'll go to the Corral, or I'll go to McDonald's, or wherever I'm going to go. Whereas office people, very few of those are office trips. Very few of those are pass-by trips, if any. They're employees going to a building with a destination. So if you do that every day, let's just say, for example, the intersection of 12 Mile and Southfield was congested, and you had long backups westbound on 12 Mile Road, for example. And you were coming to that, you live in Royal Oak, and you come across 12 Mile Road, and you want to get to that office building that's parked there, that's built there. You know that congestion is there. You go, geez, that takes 10 more minutes out of my day. Well, maybe if you do that on a routine basis, you get a little sick of that, and you find another way to go. Whereas a restaurant attendee doesn't do that. So if you're thinking about, as you think about the potential for increased traffic on, say, places on streets that you don't want it, the likelihood is greater that people that are in an office building are going to do that versus people that are attending would frequent a restaurant once a month or once every week or whatever. Now, so we didn't find anything that really jumped out there and said this is going to be a big traffic impact. But we did find a couple of other items that, and I don't know how much detail you want on this, but if you have this graphic page is on page 8, and it's titled 24-hour traffic volumes. Everybody got that? Because it's kind of an interesting statistic there. That the top number, and so if you look up at the intersection that's up here, this intersection, the top number 599 is a traffic count that was taken this summer. The number underneath it is a traffic count that was taken in 2002, a 24-hour volume number.
Could you tell me what month it was taken by any chance? The reason I'm asking because there's a school to the east,
yep.
About 3 blocks.
I don't know if I
and
have
when
that.
that school's in session, there's a lot of drop-off traffic that might take Edwards going west when they leave. But of course,
What year? I'm sorry.
Well, ours was in August. The one that we took was in August.
2011 was August.
2011 is August?
That's correct.
And 2002 is, do we know that?
June, I believe.
June 2002. So, are the numbers comparable? They should be. They could be in the sense that if there's still school traffic going on, all the better. But let's assume we'll get that date because we don't exactly have that data with us, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't have that.
We're gonna have that.
No, you know what, I do, it's in my file.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's assume for a minute that they were both taken when school was not in session. So look at 599, this is 2011, 1382. Now these are 24-hour counts, so it's a whole day. This is not peak hour. These are whole day counts. There's been a stark drop in the traffic over the past, 9 years.
Do we know when Edwards was, that portion of Edwards was down to one lane?
Yeah,
I'm guessing it was in the 80s.
That was brought up.
Okay, I thought it was much over.
About 1980, 85 or something like that.
So it was already there when they both of them were taken.
Right.
Yes, to answer the question on the years, it was August 2011 and June 2002.
June.
West side.
Well, August, we know school was out. But June.
Actually, I stand corrected, July 25th. We received the data in August, but, indicated starting 7/25/11.
Okay, but the one that was done in June of '02, I think it was the first week or two of June, school was probably still in session.
That may have been the 2002 year, because I don't think they didn't do their study until August.
No, with the question.
Correct, 2002. June 2002 versus end of July 2011.
Do you have a date?
We're just looking for date in June.
June, the date of the report or the count?
The count.
The 12th and 13th.
12th and 13th?
11th through the 13th, actually, some of the data.
We can check.
We can verify.
Isn't that an elementary school also?
Yes.
Does that cover people beyond Southfield? Does that cover children beyond Southfield? I wouldn't think so.
We are an open district for Oakland County, you know, and we do have students in some schools. I don't know if that particular school has any.
Well, what I think is important, we'll get that date, we'll find out if school is still in session, and you have to think though, is that gonna add several hundred cars to a 24-hour?
Well, I don't think so, but I know, I don't see any residents from Edwards, and they've been at every one of our study sessions until now.
Yeah.
And I know that was a concern that they expressed, was the traffic coming from that school.
Okay.
And of course, right now, the school is out and that traffic's not there.
Right, so that might explain the difference, which I'm hoping it does actually, because the difference is
That would
stark.
make sense. That's a big jump. So I'm glad to know it was in
I'm
June.
hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they, but
We'll
it's
find
a big,
it out before next week.
we'll figure it out, and, hopefully the school district can help us with that, and we'll see. But I'm hoping that it actually brings them a little bit closer together, but the numbers all over there are so different, they can't be related to the school. There's just less traffic because, what do you think? Who knows why it's less, but it certainly, may have something to do with the office building not being there too. I mean, that's another possibility, but the office building was not that big where it would generate those kind of differences. School, office, if you add them all together, the volumes are still a lot lower than they.
One thing to add on that too, certainly needs to be verified, but you see that difference occurring throughout the day. It's not a difference at 7 to 8 in the morning, and then just at 3 to 4 in the afternoon. The patterns are the same in 2002, 2011. You just are raising the volume, so I think that there's something else certainly going on besides the school. Because if it was solely due to the school, I think it would be differences only during the peak period, not throughout the day.
So that page and that graphic is pretty telling. There's some information we probably should kind of collect to bolster it, but.
I just want to ask you this, the figures that we're looking at is for the whole day, 24 hours, correct?
Yes.
So we're not sure when the peak in the.
Oh, well, we have
where is
that.
Okay, that's further on, isn't it?
Well, it's
Somewhere.
yeah, but this is just daily volumes. Just to give you an idea, kind of an acceptable peak number, or an acceptable highest number for a 24-hour count on a residential street is somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 cars a day. When it gets beyond that, you have an issue. That would be accepted practice too. In all of these streets, you have to kind of expect some sort of, especially as the closer you get to a large, a main thoroughfare, from what might be considered a mile square residential area with retail and office on the fringes, you would expect the volumes to be somewhat higher, but they're supposed to be, in general. You should design your streets and stuff like that to where it's not over 2,000 cars a day, both directions. So, for example, the north-south on Lathrop Boulevard, for example, those, if you added 415 and 685, that's the kind of number you'd want to be less than 2,000. That song. Okay. And the closer you get to the main roads, that's usually a number that's where the peaks are, or the greatest numbers are, because they're serving the neighborhood to get in and out of through the main thoroughfares. To also help with a little bit with the, if you go to page 6, there's a table 1, that has, we can look up here for this. It says existing intersection operations. What that means is there's a way of evaluating how well an intersection processes the traffic. Meaning, if there's virtually no delay, then that's a real good level of service, which would be level service A. And there's a range for volumes, or for delay, to stay in A, B, C, D, E, and F. F is not good, A is good. An acceptable level of service for a signalized intersection in a suburban area, actually most areas, is level service D. Okay, so we have Southfield Road at Edwards. If you notice, eastbound and westbound are not operating too well, right? But overall, the intersection's operating great. If you make a little improvement, which we're kind of recommending you make an improvement, it's a problem that's there now. It has nothing to do with whether it's Office or Golden Corral or what it is there. There's a kind of you'd like to have two-lane approach, and there's kind of a gravel, messed up shoulder there that ought to get fixed. But the reason that this operates like this is because the volumes are so starkly different between Southfield Road and the volumes that are on Edwards. And there's a time where that traffic signal has to stay in step with the one at 12 Mile. So it doesn't do anything until it receives a call that's there, and then it has to wait and get in step with the signal on 12 Mile so that it doesn't mess up the traffic progression along Southfield Road. So you could come up there and get caught there waiting for the signal, especially if you want to make a left turn, because it's waiting to get in the right position time-wise with the signal at Southfield Road. So you end up with that. But that's an acceptable thing to do. You're not going to convince the road commission that they're going to change that. They own road commission owns Southfield Road. So just so you know, that's why it's operating at a poor level of service, and that's not really a big deal.
Mike, is that seconds per vehicle?
Yes. Stop delay, seconds per vehicle.
So somebody might be waiting a minute.
Might. Yep. There's not very many of them that would, but they might.
Oh, I'm one of them. I'm
Yeah.
on that intersection all the time.
Yeah.
I've waited there at least a minute before.
Here's another point, just to throw this out there. This is just engineer speak, so I don't want to get too carried away with it. But if it were a stop sign, you'd probably wait there a lot less, just so you know. In fact, I'm sure you would. Especially if you think about how the signals are coordinated on Southfield Road and the platoons of traffic that come along there. Even if it's off-peak hours, you have to sit there and wait for that left thing to come on? I mean, come on, are you kidding me? So, if you pull the signal out and put a stop sign in there, the delays would be less.
But more dangerous.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. All right.
For the driver, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting here waiting, you're not happy, that's like an eternity if you're sitting there.
I understand.
So. But it's an off-peak issue especially. It'd be great if the thing went on flash or something off-peak. If you go to the drawing on page 7, which is following that table, these are the peak traffic volumes, the morning peak hour and the afternoon peak hour, and midday peak hour and PM peak hour. Golden Corral is not open for early in the morning, so we studied midday and PM peak hour. These are the movements, traffic turning movements. These are the peak hour movements at that intersection today. Those are not, I mean, so these numbers are really pretty low, just so you know. I mean, those are pretty low volumes coming off of Edwards, and actually going on to Edwards is even lower. Typically they don't, but those numbers that are, say, northbound or southbound, turning left or right onto Edwards off of Southfield, they're not going, well, a majority of them are not going to anywhere beyond the driveway. The retail business is right on the corner there. Once in a while there's a sneaker that doesn't do what they're supposed to do, but for the most part, these are the volumes and those are the movements. Very low volumes. On page 9, which I think is another kind of explain to you what you have in your hands there. There's a table 2, and it shows site trip generation. And the trips are forecast based on information provided by an organization called the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is the organization that collects this kind of information. And the volumes of data for this are really thick. They come in these big bound books. And this is accepted practice to use this to forecast trips for this type of use during that certain time of day. So we gave you we know what the square footage is. You notice that percentage, 43%. Those are trips that are not new trips to the adjacent road network. Those are trips that will come off of Southfield Road that are already out there. The remaining 57% are new trips that are somebody in Royal Oak that heard there's going to be a new Golden Corral, or that they heard there is one there, not necessarily a new one. Anytime after the thing is built, that's a planned thing that you're going to go there and have lunch or dinner. So 43% of them are not new trips. I'm going to go to the Golden Corral. Same kind of thing. I mean, that number is a little higher for a McDonald's or a Wendy's or something like that, but just to give you an idea. So the new trips are those numbers in bold at the bottom of the page there, at the bottom of the table. The average daily trips in and out, so you have to divide that number by 2, where it says 1532. That's the total number of trips that will come to that site, come and go, during the time that it's open. Based on the traffic movements that are out there today, the peak traffic movements, in other words, a percentage of cars are going southbound, northbound, eastbound, westbound, and all that, is there any reason to suspect that patrons of the new Golden Corral are going to follow any different patterns than what are out there today? No. So the traffic patterns that are there, the percentages of traffic coming from whatever direction, were used to assign the trips from the restaurant to the road network, and then they were used. That information was then used to evaluate the impact. And if you go to to page 10, you can see the percentage distribution of which way they're coming from and going to. This is a little bit of a confusing graphic, but on page 11 there's site-generated traffic, and it shows how many are going to go from each driveway and each approach. I don't know if that's worth spending your time trying to figure it out. The total future numbers, existing plus the site-generated, are on page 12. So if you need to know what we think the peak hour numbers are going to be for whatever movement at whatever driveway or at the intersection, those are the numbers you'd want to see right there. That's what was used to analyze the traffic impact for this site.
So page 12 is your estimated numbers.
Well, it's the numbers we counted that are existing, plus the site-generated ones that were assigned for the driveways based on the new development. So, going on to page 13, I hate to go through it this way, but, I mean, if you read it, you probably said, what in the heck is all this? So I thought maybe this might be helpful. If I'm losing you or boring you, or you want me to pull me off the stage, go right ahead. But
Keep it going.
Keep it going, all right. This is a table that shows the future level of service based on the traffic counts that are on page, on figure 6, page 12. Now, maybe an interesting comparison that maybe we could have for the next time. Because if I were somebody sitting there and said, "Well, how does that compare to existing?" So we might want to.
I can pull that up.
If you flip to page, what page is that? Page 6, and you compare the levels of service and the delay for page 6 versus page 13, and really what you care about is the Southfield at Edwards. The new trips, remember that's without an office building, that's just the new trips. You can actually make an improvement if you evaluate, if you in the midday, but the volume differences and the overall level of service difference is a couple of seconds. You would never notice that traffic impact. Overall operation of that signalized intersection is still good, and I think the key point here, one of the key points is particularly related to this, is that what's going to happen to the neighborhood streets? Well, if you take into account that it's not an office, 43% of the traffic is passed by, the volumes are lower, and people are the operation of the intersection and the driveways are good, what the impact is going to be negligible, if any, on the neighborhood street. There isn't a reason to go through the neighborhood street.
Plus Edwards is one way going west.
Exactly. So you'd have to somehow or another say that because I built this Golden Corral here, somebody on Greenfield is going to decide to cut through the neighborhood instead of drive on Greenfield at 12 miles to Southfield. No. You're not going to do that. New trips that might come to the Golden Corral would be people that live in the neighborhood that might go that way. I'm thinking those people are allowed to be there. It's the guy on Greenfield that's from Madison Heights that's not allowed to go there. Just as an observation.
You can see the side-by-side comparison.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Good.
See the numbers are very similar.
Yeah.
That is a good graph. Good suggestion.
Right. So we're going to show up with a graphic. It looks like that next week or 2 weeks from now. Whatever it is.
Now, Mike, on figure 4, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like you got 27 people going the wrong way on Edwards, where it becomes one way.
Yes.
27 people cheated in 2002, and 27 people are cheating in 2011
per day.
per day. So there's no, I mean, that's a problem, regardless of.
I would guess it's probably the same 27
Yeah,
people,
probably.
which
Yeah, they live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I sat out
they're
there-
entitled somehow.
Yeah.
I sat out there and watched it for a while myself, and every person that came down the wrong way going east on Edwards were lived in the neighborhood, because I followed them home.
Yeah.
So, you know, to summarize, the two things that we're looking for is, one, what impact will the Golden Corral have on overall traffic? And you're basically saying it's negligible, and it might even improve in certain circumstances.
Right, if you
And
keep-
secondly, and I'll let you elaborate, what recommendations would you have to make improvements? And you made some recommendations about like the turn lane. One of the concerns that I'd like you to address is the positioning of the driveway on Southfield Road, based on your review with Road Commission of Oakland County, based on existing conditions, and the perception that southbound traffic may have a problem turning left onto the site and you know, cause potential head-on collisions with existing. So if you could just spend a couple of minutes addressing that part of it and your recommendations, and then any other questions that the commission will have. Go back and make some of the minor modifications we talked about, then come back next week and we'll make sure that the neighborhood is invited. I wanted to have, this is an open meeting, and they're welcome to come, but I wanted to have a draft presentation so that you get feedback unencumbered by the commissions to come back and report to the neighborhood next week. So that's the plan. So if you have any other additional comments, but if you could maybe speak to the,
Okay, what was the first question?
well,
I'm over
speak to
30.
the driveway location.
Okay, the driveway location.
And then the impact on where that's positioned and potential left, you know, southbound traffic on Southfield turning left into the site.
Okay.
You can
Is
go ahead
this
and draw.
okay to
Go
draw
ahead,
on that?
Go ahead.
This is not gonna take
You
it
wanna
forever.
pull the screen up for a minute, or?
I don't know if I need to. The issue that we're talking about, this is the driveway on this way is north. I'm sorry for being left-handed, but.
It's working out in this circumstance.
Yeah, it's working out in this
Probably a
circumstance.
good thing, yeah.
There's a proposal, so, this doesn't mean, this means it should be connected in a straight line here. Okay, this is the new, Golden Corral. The driveway here, and this driveway, this is the signal. This is Edwards. This is the signal here. The driveway is proposed to be here, and so me. And the issue is, always is, in these kinds of situations, especially on a 5-lane road or a 3-lane road, especially bad, is that this offset, it's offset in the wrong direction, because somebody wants to come here to turn in here, and you've got somebody that comes in here that wants to turn in there. And they both want to get in that same piece of pavement, and they're going in opposite directions fast. Sometimes they are, sometimes, but proper planning and proper engineering and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that, for example, the city of Southfield, or in this case, the Oakland County Road Commission, doesn't know that that's a bad thing? Why would they approve this situation? Sometimes you can't do anything about it. I mean, it was there before. It's been there. It was an office building, right? But if you notice, and then maybe nobody did, but back in the day, they posted a sign up there, no left turn. You're not allowed to turn left. There's a traffic control order for that. The police can write tickets for that. So this northbound left is not supposed to go there. That northbound left is supposed to go here. So one of the things we recommended was fixing that sign, because you can't, it's faded, it's not in good shape. Those people are supposed to turn here, and a lot of them know it. Nobody makes that.
Actually, your drawing is a little off. There's two driveways on the west side. one that you're talking about is actually further south from where you're talking about, the one where it had a sign there.
It's between
There's no
Edwards
left
and the
turn.
new proposed entrance on the opposite side.
The proposed entrance of the building corral is actually, closer to a northern,
Right. You've got it right, but there's another one?
Between Edwards and the Golden Corral on this side, that's the one that has the sign up.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right, yeah, okay. But we don't want that condition, the road commission won't approve that condition, and, it's already taken care of, so we don't have to worry about it. And we've put in, we're not allowing this movement out of our driveway.
That would come on the east side, the south side of the property and
Right.
come out, you wanna go left.
Right.
You wanna go south.
Yeah, if you want, that's what the signal's for, that's why they put it there, and if, they're not just gonna put it there and then put opportunities for people that ignored it.
So,
Can you-
addressing the
just leave
proposed
it?
site plan.
Wait, can you leave it? I think people are gonna talk about it.
Yeah. Addressing the proposed site plan, Mike, is that location where they're showing the driveway, based on your analysis and what you know the road commission and county's gonna approve, can that driveway stay there, or does that have to shift north to be across from the other driveway?
Can't
Because
be.
that could affect the layout of the site, which means they have to, revise the...
I don't think you can shift it to line up.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
If you could address
That'll-
that issue.
Right, I don't think you can shift it, and if you move it too far north, you're gonna get too close to the
Yeah.
driveway
So
that's there.
will they approve that location, that...
99.9% yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted the commissioners to understand, because if the traffic impact study has implications on the location of the driveway, then they have to go back to the drawing board and give us a revised site plan. If based on your data and your knowledge of what the road commission or Oakland County will approve, they will approve that location, then we're good to move forward with this project. If not, we have to take a step back.
Right. Now, here's the other thing too, is that the county won't give you a firm commitment until you show up with a permit request in your hand. I think MDOT does the same thing, and I think City of Southfield probably does the same thing. So, show up there with it, and they'll comment on it. That's why I'm leaving a 10% chance that they'll say something different. But they're not gonna move it around too much, because the proximity between here and here is an issue that might be even be a greater issue to them since they already have the left turns prohibited. The other issue is that the traffic queues are not a problem, and we've restricted our left turn out.
Is that right? I don't recall that being said before our public hearing.
Right, the left turn out is not, we're not allowing that.
Based on your study.
Right, well,
Oh.
based on the site plan too.
Is that what it says on there?
Oh, okay.
And so you use the southern, come out that way.
Right, you're gonna come out and turn left there at the signal.
That's why I just wanted to confirm that.
I'd like
again.
to,
Makes sense.
I'd like to point out that, and I'd like to recognize that Scott Griffin is here, who is the property owner at Farther. The previous drive that was a problem was farther north.
Right.
This one
Actually,
being farther south.
It actually makes that head-on area bigger.
It makes it better.
No, it makes it bigger.
Well, it makes the overlap farther apart, which...
Makes more overlap.
I don't know,
Let's have, if you wanna address the comments of the chair, and then Mr. Griffin, if you wanna, respond or make your comments, you can do that through the chair.
But the previous drive was farther north.
Yes.
This one is moved closer
And I-
to the intersection.
I think the road commission's gonna like that, I like it too, but, to be further away from this one.
Yeah.
Control of that on the other side, there's really not even a lot of demand going in and out of that drive over there. I saw that, so it's probably better to get a little bit further away, but it's a balancing act. It's the whole thing is a compromise. You gotta do the right thing. You can't just, I hate to say it, but property owners are entitled to access. So, they can have one access point out here. The idea is to locate it the best way you can. Telling them that they can't have an access to Southfield Road and making them go in and out at Edwards is probably not right either. So they are entitled to one access point, and they've restricted the movement that's most likely the biggest conflict. In fact, it will be the biggest conflict. So it's probably going to be fine with the road commission. The other thing, what was the other question?
The two things is, I think you stated that the impact overall will be negligible.
Right.
And your improvements, you've made some recommendations on the improvements, what needs to be incorporated into the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you addressed the southbound left turn issue driveway.
Yep.
Might be other issues that the commissioners have.
You know, 'cause till it goes to the commission, we really don't have a definite answer on as far as what their opinion is going to be.
You mean the road commission?
The road commission, right.
Okay.
We'll have that next week for you.
We'll have that next week.
If you want that. I mean, the only problem is, the final answer, you have to get with the driveway permit. So, I don't know how I'll have it won't be 100%, but the only thing that the road commission might do is they might say, what's the worst they could do?
Say move it up or down.
No, I don't think they're going to play with that.
You can only go in there and go out the other way.
You can only go in, a right in and a right out. That's the worst they would say. That's the worst it could be, and they would restrict the southbound left off the Southfield Road.
Now, this is not an official public hearing, but there might be some members of the audience that
We're not letting anybody out.
Mr. Griffin,
To turn left.
you can address the commission now if you'd like.
Thank you.
State your name and address.
Scott Griffin, 29433 Southfield Road. As Sam said, I own the property across the street. This is an unusual position for me. Typically, I'm a developer, and one of my companies is the largest restaurant real estate brokerage companies in the Midwest. So typically, I'd be sitting next to Sam and Corinne and trying to work out the safest, best solution. I'm doing the same thing here, but in a different role. I'm not opposing the restaurant at all. I'm excited about another place to eat. I know that the residents have issues. That's not why I'm here. I think you spoke well to the issues on Edwards. I was surprised in this entire report that it didn't address in one line on one page this concern. This is, as far as I'm concerned, by far the biggest safety concern. My concern is not that there might be fender benders. My concern is that people will die. People, plural, will die. This is the most dangerous. I'm a developer. I do sites like this all the time. I do tons of restaurants. I've never seen a condition this dangerous. I do not share your enthusiasm for what Oakland County will say, number one, the road commission. But this is lunacy. These are cars. Right now, the office building, or when the office building was there, they knew, I think the report says that the sign should be replaced with a newer sign. There are two signs there. It's that bad of a situation. They put a sign on each side of that drive for the people that go there every day. They already know it, but there's two signs there to say, remember, you can't do this because somebody's going to get hurt. Of course, just like 27 people come out the wrong way on Edwards, people did this, or go in the wrong way, people did the same thing there, occasionally. So occasionally, and now these are people that know they can't do it, and they're trying to sneak in. So they're only going to do it if they don't see somebody coming on the other way northbound. Yet still, you'd have situations where people are nose to nose, standing in the center turn, one to go into our complex and one to go into that office building, and you can't. There's cars whizzing by you at 45 miles an hour both ways, and you're sitting there going, "What do we do now?" It happened all the time. That's with people that knew they couldn't do it. Now you're talking about 47% new people that haven't been there before, that don't drive by, that are going there specifically for that are looking for an entrance. And they're going to be driving southbound, looking at the entrance, and see that entranceway, not looking at the oncoming traffic. People will die. That's my concern here. So, and in every new situation in Oakland County, the state of Michigan, every community that I've ever worked with, you always have to line up. You have to be 200 feet off a light for an entrance, and you have to line up your opposing entrances. This one, it makes the situation worse. You know, Sam was saying it is farther down. It is here now. But what happens is now that's a farther period, that these cars are gonna be in the center turn lane trying to get past. There was nothing in the report about queuing, stacking, people, how fast they'd be going. 45 and 45 is 90 miles an hour. So I'm very, very, very concerned. Again, nothing against the restaurant. Crit's a great operator. Sam's a great architect. I'm happy to have it. This scares me to death. There should not be.
What is your suggestion?
It shouldn't have an entrance there. If there's an entrance there, people will be looking for it. You know, if you think about every new Meijer, Walmart, all these different sites where you've got a major shopping center, any of the regional malls, and you've got restaurants all around, the restaurants don't have their own curb cuts. You enter through a main entrance at a light, and then you go in the inner road to the restaurant. That's all this would be. Orchard Lake Road's the same way. Every new restaurant that goes there, you go in at a light, and you go down a side road. This would be going into the light into the parking lot. You don't even have to drive down an access road. You're already in it. But it's so much safer if you do it at the light. So much safer. So, and if you look at the numbers of traffic that they're projecting, what are you going to lose? 9 cars a day going in? Actually, if you do the math on the numbers, Corrit's going to die losing money here, but that's not going to happen. These numbers are so far low that they'll do 5 times more traffic than's in here, and I could be happy to show you the numbers. These reports of projections are unbelievably low. So, and again, traffic studies done for the purpose of presenting you with information so that you can determine what's safe for the community. This was done for the customer, not for the community. So.
Can I,
Anyone else have comments?
Do you want some rebuttal?
You can, after, let's see if there's any other comments, and then you can take them all together.
State your name.
Fred Bunker, 24201 Garner, and speaking to the gentleman's concerns about additional traffic, and not specifically about this restaurant, but I'm similarly impacted by traffic stacking, and it's the inevitability of people doing what signs claim they shouldn't. And it happens all the time on a residential street I live on as a result not of a restaurant but of a school being built where thousands of people all at once descend upon this location and create the kind of conditions that I can see very easily. This residential road, similar to mine that feeds into Telegraph, at least at Telegraph we have a median so people can drive for their lives to get to the median and in a turnaround in somewhat of a safer area. If it was a left turn lane like this, as I understand, and I've been by this area, you can get your tail end into a left turn lane while the opposite traffic, as the gentleman described, would also be in a akimbo to traffic in the fast lane, as it's called, the lane adjacent to the left turn lane, where people are going to be harmed seriously, I believe. So again, without any ability to judge, having not read the traffic report that was done for the thousands of cars on my residential road reported only that, quote, traffic was running smoothly. And that's, talk about a limited amount of information from a traffic study. I think our traffic study was so limited in scope and fact that it was laughable, so pardon me, but appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any more comments?
Okay.
Want me to ask?
You can respond to
If you
the
want me
chair.
to. If you want
Yeah,
me
I would like you to the chair. Okay.
We didn't finish going through the whole report, so let's do that first, and then we'll take up the some of the issues that were brought up. If you go to page 14, there is information about traffic queues. That table shows that information. It's not a big deal. The queues are not a problem. So again, there's not something that we, at least in our minds, we feel that this is going to be a good operation. There's not going to be any significant challenges with this, and we're not going to support setting up something where people are going to be killed, for God's sake. We followed accepted practice, and we've forecast this traffic based on accepted practice. We did not do this for a developer, we didn't do this for an architect, we didn't do it for anybody other than what an engineering study would be. It's not biased in any way, shape, or form, it's engineering criteria. And if somebody wants to try and bias a study, wants us to do that, we're not gonna do that study. So to say something like that was, I don't know, pretty offensive if you ask me. But nonetheless,
And I wanna add, I've known Mike for 12 to 14 years. I respect him. He's one of the respected engineers. I required that an independent traffic study be done, and they had to meet one of our qualifications that we felt comfortable that it was gonna be done professionally. So I stand by Mike's report on this, and I would not have accepted that if this was some fly-by-night engineering company that we didn't feel comfortable with. So I'll go on record and say that I've worked with him for a long time and respect his work. So I take this, that doesn't mean that we can't address some of the outstanding
Right,
issues,
yeah,
but
right.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that he did this on behalf of the developer, with the developer's, best interests.
Thanks for the clarification, so we know it's not bias involved.
oh, no, the numbers are the numbers. Well, somebody asked me to do it, whether I'm doing it for the city, the county, the state, some developer, whatever. There's no point in making up stuff just because your client has some sort of, special interest or something. I would never do that. And, but there's a couple other things that I think are important to know. The volumes that are shown on Figure 6, page 12, are peak hour. Those are just hourly numbers. Those are not daily or anything like that. Those are just the hour. And those are peak hour of the adjacent street traffic. In other words, that's not the peak hour for the restaurant necessarily. It's the peak hour of the traffic when it's the worst out there. How much traffic does this restaurant generate for that, at the same time as when those volumes are out there? The peak numbers for the restaurant are probably significantly higher than that. But when the volumes are the highest on the adjacent roads, that's what the study is focused on. Where it's most likely people are going to have traffic queues and long delays that are potentially going to be impacted by this development, and most of the time, our concern was what's going to happen to the adjacent street. What's going to cause somebody to divert from one place, from a major road to a residential street to get to a restaurant? It's delays, queues on the major road. So study the major road to find out if there's reason that people are going to do that. You can't just say, I'm going to build a restaurant there, and so all hell's going to break loose on the residential street. No. Let's study it. Let's figure out if there's really any foundation for that. If there was, we would have said so. We didn't find anything like that. Now, on page 14, where the queue table is, which I want to make sure you understand that, which is a little bit confusing. If you look at that, it's queue lengths, and it says MD saying midday peak, PM peak. It's queue in feet, not cars, feet. So, and it says average, so the 50th percentile and 95th percentile. So like the average queue that's going to be out there during that peak time, worst case scenario time, and the 95th percentile. So there's only 5% of the queues that would ever be longer than those numbers. Okay, so the 100th percentile queue, I don't think it calculates that, does it? So those are the numbers that you're going to be facing with queues at those locations on the approaches. Now, I don't know if we want to get too carried away with some of the other things that were stated, but this is really a legitimate. I don't disagree with the fact that this offset is a challenge, and if the offset is too close, that's really a problem. If it's further apart, they are addressing the issue because you give room for a car or two to get in there. Remember, these turns are prohibited over here, not here. They've been prohibited. If this driveway goes away, what's to be gained on that drive? something. Probably left turns.
There already is an existing driveway there, so
Yes,
but
and
it's further up.
turns are prohibited.
No, it's not.
It is farther
Okay,
up.
good, yeah.
The wrong driveway you're talking about.
My question is this, that's an office building, right, or is it still there?
Was.
It's currently an office building there?
Burned
or
down.
It's all gone?
It's gone.
It's
Vacant
gone.
land.
That's the
But
one
it
that
was
burnt
an
down.
office,
That's the one that
but it
burnt
was
down.
an office building with these streets like they are right there with that opening
Uh-huh.
up there.
Right.
So with the new development, that's moved down. And you
To like right
can't,
in here.
and you can't go out and make a left turn from that, am I correct?
Our new driveway, no, you
The new
can't.
driveway, you
we're-
have to make a right turn.
A right turn, a
only.
right in, a right turn out, no left turn out, and you're allowed this left turn in. Southbound left turn in would be allowed.
You can allow a left turn in coming from
The north.
north, you allow a left turn in.
Right. This is the left turn out that's really the issue here.
Right, oh, wait. See, when you say left turn out, okay, left turn in, I got you, I'm back.
This, if you're coming along southbound from the north, we would allow this left turn to get in here and turn in there.
Okay.
There's already a left turn lane there, and it looks to me like the gap for the left turn goes up to about there, so we're in.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Mike?
That's where you're, okay.
Yes, sir.
Could you point out what Scott's condition is that he's concerned about on that same photograph?
Which driveway, this is your driveway?
No, the one
That's the
farther
blue
up.
sign.
That
Yeah,
one
that's
there.
That one. The condition here, if you notice the offset, this is, more of a, how do you wanna put it, how much room is there in there for a car? There's probably room in there for 2 cars, maybe.
Two.
One
Will
going
they,
the wrong way.
gradually get over in the center turn
Right.
lane like everywhere else?
Right, so, I guess that's the condition that they're talking about.
There's a no left turn sign for this driveway.
Right in
Right,
there?
right.
That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one.
No, that's not the one we're talking about. The one to the
I
north.
thought it was the north.
I'm talking about this one.
No, he's talking
No
about.
problem there.
He's talking about the one farther up, Mike.
Well,
Scott.
our driveway's down here.
Right. That's,
Suddenly, we put a driveway here, and it's gonna be a catastrophe for somebody up there?
I would think that you, more than anyone else in the room, would understand that.
Wow. Maybe I have to go back to school, I don't know. I don't get that. To be honest with you, I really don't.
You're being sarcastic, but we're talking about people's
No,
lives.
I'm being honest, you were being sarcastic.
No, I'm talking about
This
people's
is not,
lives.
this distance between here and this, that's not a conflict that anybody would worry about.
What is the stacking queue there now? And what do you propose it to be? You propose 4 cars at Edwards. You don't say it, but that's what the math works out to. 4 cars. That's all. And then how many more would there be at the other one?
Southbound left turn midday existing is 12 feet.
You
Southbound
showed
left
95
turn
feet.
midday with our traffic at Edwards is 32 feet.
You say that there is 95 feet of queue space between Edwards and the new proposed driveway. So that would be less than 4 cars. Because you say it won't impact the cars turning left, coming southbound into the proposed driveway.
Question.
Wait, I think we're not talking about.
Before you even answer that.
Yeah.
Put the picture back up there. I'm looking at what's there already, it looks like a problem. I don't see a problem being worse or better with the new drive. I don't see, I'm saying right now what we're looking at has got the same issue. Now we
In a bigger way, maybe.
possibly. But what I'm saying is there's something there, something was there, and traffic was coming and going. Now we're just moving it down, maybe trying to make it better. I'm trying to understand both of you.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at that, and I see the problem that you're talking about already,
Right.
before we do anything. So if we're gonna change something, it's almost the same thing. Will it be better with signs or not? We're trying to make things.
Right.
Let me ask
Okay,
this,
they have signs there
through
now.
the chair,
Okay.
Mike, for next week. Take this aerial, show the new proposed driveway location, show
To scale.
stacking, show the turning, and show the stacking issue so we can address Mr. Griffin's concern. So we can all understand existing versus proposed, and, you know, show cars at 20-foot, whatever, stacking, and so that, you know, we can understand, because the site plan only shows basically the one side of the street. The aerial is good. You know, show where the proposed location is, show your turning, no left-hand turn, your right-hand turn signals on there, and then show that stacking area, that potential conflict zone on there, somehow cross-hatch it or show cars. Because whether it's next week, or the COW meeting, or the council meeting, you know, this is an
We're gonna
issue
hear it
that
again.
we need to address so that everyone's comfortable, we understand what the issue is.
Okay.
So I think that's a fair question.
Okay, yeah, that graphic will help a lot.
Is he gonna show existing the same thing? Cause I
Yeah,
think it'd be good to show that it's not much different, it might be a better thing, what you're doing.
And put some distance
Because I'm saying, I
signs.
see a issue there, but it's already there.
Here's something that I was wondering about, I know it
You
might
know,
not.
you could show the offset
yeah,
here versus
what that
what
is.
the offset is,
Right,
and the
and
stacking
it
and
might
all
be
that.
better.
Right, well, here's one of the questions I kind of wondered about that we didn't put in here because it's not pretty typical, but it might get there, I don't know. But, for years, you've lived with this here, right? And it generated trips, it had all kinds of things going on, and you lived with it here. Right now, we're comparing the Golden Corral with a vacant site.
That's why I was asking you to do that road.
Is there any,
both ways.
need
They also have a
to
sign
know what it
at
used to
that
be?
entrance there that says exit only.
Sorry.
There's a sign at that current exit, that current drive, that one there.
Uh-huh.
It says exit only.
Yeah, so it probably means you can do this and that.
It says exit only.
That's it.
The sign says exit only.
So but he's saying you can go left or right, you can go south or north exiting only.
Oh, but you can't.
You can only go right.
You can only go right,
Yeah.
the way it is
It
now?
should only be
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
That's the way it should be, probably, because of this proximity to this and proximity to that. That's an issue. Those are kind of close.
Roy, I'd like to ask you, does that mean nobody ever turned in from Southfield into that?
I didn't say that.
Oh,
I said that's what the sign says.
Well, I just wonder how you could see it. I use that all the time.
Well, the same way you'll stop people from turning left, coming out of it.
Yeah.
The sign says it.
Yeah, I never
What
noticed.
else are you gonna do?
Oh, I never noticed that it said
Is
exit
there any
only, but how do
know
people
what
know
it used to
turn
be,
in?
how many trips this generated, or anything like that for the future?
Not for me.
For next week?
Not for me, I just wanted you to make a point that what's there, what you're getting ready to do is either the same or a better situation.
Okay.
Because to me, you got a situation there, you're gonna have another one, but nothing is perfect.
Right.
Yeah, just through the chair, and what the neighbors had said is the office hours had 9 to 5, pretty much, Monday through Friday, and by the time they got home from their working day, they knew that pretty much the traffic was gone. Their concern is the restaurant now is open later at night during the week, it's gonna be weekends, and there's the noise and the traffic issues. So in so much as understanding that, as you address these issues,
Yeah, that might be.
okay, you're talking, you know, standard practices, midday and peak. You know, again, the bottom line is, how is this impacting me as a resident living on Edwards Street? I think you've addressed the Edwards issues pretty much.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind as you go through this and
Well,
we'll
it would
bring
be
this
good
back.
to know, I guess, we could give you volumes, I think, we can come up with that. I think we can give some peak hour of the generator kind of volumes, which would be off-peak. In other words, we were looking for reasons that people would not come from the main roads to this site that related to traffic congestion, long traffic queues, long delays, and stuff like that. We didn't find any of that. So the impact for the peak hours, the worst case situation, is what we're giving you here. What the traffic will be at, you know, after everybody gets home at 7 o'clock at night, we might be able to get that. I'm pretty sure that number's available to us. So we could give you that when everybody gets home kind of number, just so you know. It should be helpful probably, so for help as your decision making. So we'll do that. And we'll come up with that graphic showing all with the site plan imposed on this aerial or something like this aerial, and give you all the traffic cues that are here, so it all kind of makes sense to you in one graphic.
So it's understandable to the layperson, right?
Right. Last thing I guess I wanted to point out is that, when, again, it's accepted practice, but if you wanted to prohibit, if it's determined that they want these northbound left turns prohibited into this driveway, the condition is not so hazardous that you put up 2 signs. In other words, this has any more hazardous situation than any other situation on a main road that's like this, which is all over Oakland County, all over the place. These offsets are what they are. They happen that way because of property parcels and people's rights to have access to a road. Reasonable access to a road they're allowed to have. When you prohibit the turns, accepted practice requires that you put 2 signs up, one near side and one far side. So it's nothing super or overemphasize the hazardousness of the situation by putting up 2 signs. It requires that you do it whether there's 2 cars a day or 1,000 cars a day. It's the last thing that I want to make sure that everybody's content with is we have to come up with the dates for the school opening and closing. Is there anything else that you all have heard to help us out? You all have heard over the past several weeks or months that we've been talked about in this, that or is in the back of your mind that is a concern that you'd like addressed that we haven't addressed?
One thing that, if I may, to the chair, on page 12, it shows the proposed Golden Corral volume of traffic, and if I've pulled the right figures out of the entrances into this site correctly, the larger figures going in from any entrance, 22 plus 20 plus 42 plus 1 equals 85 total trips per day into that site?
No.
No? Okay.
No, if you look down on the lower right, it says midday peak hour, and then PM peak hour.
Okay.
So those are hourly numbers that you're seeing there.
Hourly numbers.
And these are not Golden Corral numbers. These, on the driveways they are. But these numbers are the existing traffic counts that we made too at the intersection.
Okay.
Plus the Golden Corral numbers. Now the Golden Corral numbers are on their driveways, but
that's what that 22, 20, 42, and 1 I thought was the entrances into the proposed entrances into the Golden Corral. Is that what it is?
Where you're looking at now? Okay, I see what you mean.
42, 20, 42, and 1.
And 1, yes.
Right. That's the proposed entrances for that 1 hour.
For the midday peak hour.
For the midday and PM.
No, the one behind it would be 20.
Oh, you'd have to do plus. Okay.
No. The midday, the PM peak hour is a different number total.
Okay. I was trying to get total trips.
Well, you have to go to that. There's a table that we had that forecast the trips. Page 9.
Okay.
These are the in and out and total during the midday peak hour. Do you see that? 85, 78, 163 is the total. 43% of them are pass-by trips. Now, pass-by trips...
Okay, I'm not worried about pass-by trips or if they go from my house over there. All I'm worried about are the total entrances into that site.
Right, and that would be 85, 78, would be 163 during the midday.
Okay.
And 79 and 55 for a total of 134 during the PM peak hour.
Okay.
So those are the total numbers that would be on those driveways.
Okay. And the reason I'm trying to visualize that figure is You've got that counting employees plus customers.
Yes.
And, it does sound like to me that might be for an average restaurant. But from what every resident that came in here and complained about, and, everybody that I've heard talk about Golden Corral, I've never been to one. But everybody that came in here has, apparently. They said they had. And said they just love the food. And said that they are always busy. And if they don't have more customers than this, that isn't always busy.
Those are just hourly numbers.
But that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that the amount of traffic that's going in and out of this property is going to be quite substantial.
It's going to be about 800 trips a day.
Which is, I'm sorry, to the chair, may I, real quick? You're saying 1,532 cars will go in and out,
Total.
right?
That's it.
And if we divide it,
If you divide it by 2,
this
that's
is 797.
7, yeah.
Okay,
About
so you're
800.
saying 800 cars will come in.
Right.
What we say is average per car is about a little over 2 guests per car. 2 customers per car. That's our average guest comes in our building. So let's say 2.2. So if you take 797, that meets the number of cars will be coming in. That is about where our sales would be.
Yeah, through the chair, I think it's important clarification, and I've looked at those traffic engineering
That's
books,
what I'm
right?
saying, right.
You get an average for a restaurant of a certain size, and those are,
Unless it's a unique restaurant.
this is unique, it's probably gonna be above the average. So just, we're asking, you ask for additional clarification, is to make sure that his numbers that he expects, as they relate to the averages that you use, are fair numbers, so that, you're not showing an average for an average restaurant, and then it's 25% higher. I think that's what,
I guess.
we just want to
All I'm
getting
getting at is I'm expecting this to be an above-average restaurant as far as volume of traffic. Not necessarily the food. Like I say, I've never eaten one, so I can't say. But I'm expecting the volume of traffic, based on what I've heard, to be higher than your average restaurant.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
and if Chair, that from 5 to 6, you're gonna serve 1,000 meals, and you divide that by 2.2, you can figure out, back into the number of cars, you can compare that with your PM peak, and say, this is the adjustment, or it's this plus 20%. Because I think that's the issue the neighbors are gonna raise.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that come out of this too that, maybe you might wanna think about. Where's the closest Sonic? Sonic is a long way away, right?
I don't think there's one nearby.
They wanna be right there.
Sonic is a huge, interesting thing that has this phenomenon that for a few weeks after they open up, it's chaos. Well, suddenly, after a while, though, they start behaving like a normal restaurant or a normal fast food. So, the uniqueness of this one coming to this area, you can expect it's going to be, well, I'm going to show up just to see what it's all about. Whether any of us go back after going there once, remains to be seen. But we're not going to rush out there and get involved in the pizza and all this other stuff. So, it's going to settle down after a while, whether or not, and so it doesn't make a lot of sense to run out and say, well, I'm going to adjust these up 30% because it's a unique restaurant. I don't know, that's completely wrong.
Well, I'm basing it purely on what people have told me about other.
But it would be good to get their information and come back and say, well, can we corroborate this with them, which is a great idea to do that.
And that's all I'm trying to get at.
That's real good.
I don't care what the numbers are. That's not my problem. That's yours and his.
Yeah, right.
He cares.
Well, actually, I do too.
But assuming that what people have been telling me is halfway truthful as far as what they believe the volume to be at the restaurants they've been at.
Yeah.
And that's ones that are open and running, not this one.
Yeah, are there any around here? I didn't even know.
There's one in Westland and one somewhere in Macomb County that I've been told about, but I've never been to one.
Okay.
I'm just gonna make this comment, I'm quite sure you're not gonna remove the drive on Southfield and just have them on Edwards, because there's no residents here, I'm just saying that up front, just in case someone comes up.
That wouldn't be appropriate. Property
fit,
tax, yes.
what they would have I'm just saying that's
Yes.
not a option with the residents, I can.
Right, well, I
And I like,
see an option
I
with
like
me
what
is-
you've done, I mean, I like what the architect has done, the way he put that drive, to come out of it or go away from it.
And there really wasn't that much difference from people turning left onto Edwards than turning left into this, except this is moving closer to Edwards than it was before.
Oh, your entrance, right.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Any other questions? Any other things, any other items that you didn't hear tonight that to address issues that you know are out there so that we can make sure we do it?
We'll call him if we.
I think the main one is what Terry, asked you to provide, is that,
Like graphic?
traffic
Yeah,
flow
that's-
on Southfield Road
Yeah.
into the site.
Okay.
The clarification on the school traffic count, whether, what part of June it was in 2002.
Yep, got that.
And then, the other item was, just looking at their expected volumes, to see if it's in line with what you came up with. I think those are the three things.
Right.
And it's a minor modification, I talked to TJ about a couple, labeling a few of those.
Yep.
Yeah, because I can assure you the residents and the council will bring up school being open versus closed, that issue.
We'll make sure we have that on.
Yeah, right.
All right,
Okay, I think we're all set.
Thank you very much. Hope I didn't take too much time, but it's kind of a,
I think I have a little homework to do.
I have a little homework.
That'll be.
Had that before. All right, great. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thanks a lot.